Welcome to the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
I'm LaWanda.
I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Ron.
And tonight we are here to discuss Queen Sugar. All right, we are back talking Queen Sugar. We took a break for a second, but we are back to discuss Queen Sugar. This is still one of our favorite shows, and we are just happy to be back here to discuss it with you. I really enjoyed this season in general. I liked how they highlighted the COVID pandemic and highlighted how that was affecting everyone on Queen Sugar. But also, I like how the season ended. This was probably one of my favorite episodes since it kind of started getting away from the COVID storyline and getting back into like the Queen Sugar drama. So it's a good setup for next season.
Well, one of the things I liked about it is that Hollywood stole our name. He calls his new store the Real Spot. So I want to shout out to Hollywood. But it's all good. It's all good.
I dropped a couple of tears on this episode. Yeah. I was really moved by some things, especially I had figured that they were going to end up with I'm great calling by her real name, Darla being pregnant.
You did say that.
I thought that was coming because I was just looking at like how she was dressing and the waistline. I was like, she pregnant, and I said, and that's probably how they're gonna close out the season.
Not only that, how they made room for the baby now that Blue is off in DC, and now they're making this room for the baby. So it was almost fortuitous. You could, you didn't have to spend a lot of brain power to figure out, and like you said, plus I think it's due. And, and Ralph Angel, yeah, it's good. It's good to have his son or daughter, whichever it's going to be.
Yeah, I liked how they highlighted that at the end, because I know previously with Blue, there was all of that paternity drama. But Ralph Angel, he still hung in there, and he was a real father figure to Blue, and he has stepped up to the plate so much. And so now that he is actually having a child with Darla and it's his paternal child, like that's going to mean so much to him. And now that they're married, it's like they really hitting the sweet spot.
Yeah, they are, and they're family. And as he said in previous seasons, like, my blood may not be running through your vein, but you are still my son. And that is still, Blue is still his son regardless. And so they are just a cute little family. I'm happy for them. I was telling Ron off camera that I was happy about the way Darla, what she said to Charlie, the advice that she gave to Charlie about Davis, I thought was really on point. And especially just, letting her know, like, this is your business. This is your life. Nobody, you were married to the man, the man. Nobody can tell you what to do.
Exactly. She was absolutely right too. And I liked how Charlie kind of gave her the confidence and, feeling like you are worthy of giving advice. You've been through a lot, but that doesn't mean that your advice is not valuable.
And not valid.
And it was spot on. I mean, she couldn't have given any better advice. And, to give it to Charlie, it was just extra special, and I'm sure she felt that way.
Yep. Now, the way Aunt Vi reacted, on the other hand,
Aunt Vi was out of pocket. Aunt Vi was out of pocket for sure.
She's been out of pocket for a while now.
Yeah, she has.
Yeah, COVID has affected her in more ways than one. But in Vi's honor, and I'm going to speak up for a little bit. She had a lot to do with Blue, and while I understood what she was trying to say, that she was afraid. She was afraid. DC is a big city to them, and having your little Blue go to the big city to be educated, that's a horrifying thing, particularly when you grow up in a small town like that, and that's all you know.
Yeah.
But I think she really overstepped her bound with Ralph Angel. That whole tit-a-tat with Ralph Angel was just wrong on so many counts.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, I feel her, and I'm not mad at her for, claiming ownership of him, right? She helped raise him, but she hit Ralph Angel below the belt, and that was unfair. And she didn't have to go that far with it, But
Exactly.
I guess, the thing about Aunt Vi is she's very passionate, right? That's that fire in her. They're gonna work it out, but that hurt. I felt bad. I was stung when she said that to him.
Me too.
Yeah.
And then she gonna tell him that his father would be ashamed of him and all this stuff and call him a boy like that. She had really crossed the line with that.
Yes.
And the only one that could really get through to her was Hollywood. Because the way he communicated to her, like without beating her over the head. So
Can we give the slow clap for Hollywood?
Yeah, Hollywood broke it down. He broke it down,
He broke it down for her, and he was still loving, but he checked her when she needed to be checked.
Yeah, he did.
He needed to be checked.
But in a couple of episodes before that, he was, he'd had to say something to her before, like, you really insinuating yourselves in these other people's situation. What is that about? I'm thinking as the matriarch of the family, she takes that liberty, but I think it was also the pressure of COVID and everybody just being in close quarters, not being able to get in. But yeah, Vi was on 10.
Yeah,
He was on 10.
Yeah, I can see why Ralph Angel didn't come to her reopening. I wouldn't have had too much nice to say after that lashing she gave him.
Yeah.
It's gonna take some time.
Yeah, it's gonna take some time. Yeah. Because she assaulted his manhood and everything. Like, he called him a boy, told him he's acting like a boy. Like, yeah.
You can't do. You don't do that to a grown man.
And then that conversation that Aunt Vi had with Charlie, when Charlie was bringing up possibly reuniting with Davis, and she was asking about Jimmy Dale, and man, was she triggered.
She was triggered. Now
she became unhinged.
Yeah, she did. Now Jimmy
Dale,
I
her about that.
I think that I don't think he deserves a second chance either. But no. Davis, on the other hand, like she said, she did come around and say, Davis is not Jimmy Dale or Vale, whatever his name is. So. And that is true. I think, when we looked at what the situation with Davis, and as you and I talked about before the show, his accountability with Charlie when she had COVID, if I were Charlie, you would have to give him a second thought, because not only did he take, exceptional care, but he was Charlie on the spot, Johnny on the spot. Like that.
Yeah. Just everything from fixing the glass, the glass and the door, cooking meals, sitting up with her day and night to make certain that she doesn't get any sicker. If that's not a changed man, I don't think I've ever seen one.
Right.
He was the husband he should have been to her.
Yes.
There you go. And she kept going to everybody for confirmation of kind of what she knew she was already going to do.
Right. But kind of the only thing I didn't like about it was she was, kind of creeping around with the question. And I think that's where she and Aunt Vi got in trouble, because, just come out with it, No, because I can speak to this, because when you are with someone and then your family sees that this person has broken your heart and all that, and then say it's some years down the line and this person has redeemed themselves and everything, and you two become cool again, but your family and friends remember that, and sometimes they interject and they're like, oh, how could you give this person another chance, whatever, and it can make you uncomfortable wanting to resume this, because you didn't divulged all this stuff about this person, and your family is taking it on. So I understand why she was tiptoeing. Let him without sin cast the first stone. And sometimes you just gotta let your family be your family, because just like oh my God, I'm getting old.
Are you talking about the show?
Dollar, just like Dollar
Oh.
said,
Yeah.
nobody knows your heart better than you. So you don't go around listening to what other people say. That man, now admittedly, she did not she didn't divulge the fact that she had COVID. I really don't know why she didn't after she got over it. She could have said, hey, Davis came by, I had COVID, yeah, let that blow off. And then, but what he did was amazing. He not only came by to rescue me, but he stayed with me day and night and brought me back to better health. Now, what better story, love story, can you put up?
Yeah, well, I think she was just afraid of the judgment, maybe, which is why she didn't come straight out with the question. But then also, Charlie should be really happy that she does have friends and family that will, encourage her to make her own decision, because not everybody else will feel that way. Like you said, Tiffany, they might jump the cuff and be like, how could you? You better not take him back, this, that, and the third. So like the fact that they encouraged her to think for herself and to act on how she feels, whether he's changed or not, that was a real blessing for her, because everybody don't get that kind of advice.
I was telling Ron off camera that I was live tweeting the show, and there was some bitter Bettys on Twitter. They were some bitter Bettys. I was like, no, don't forget he had a baby on da-da-da. And I was like, now see, when you know God, and when you're in touch with your spirituality and stuff, you can open your heart and believe that a person can change. And it looks to me like Davis has done some work on himself, may have got some therapy, may even got in touch with his own spirituality. And if you see somebody who is doing the work, then you can give him a chance. Yeah, he did do all those terrible things, but that doesn't mean that he is still that person. And I was just like, dang, but it was split on Twitter. It was some people like, okay, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Davis. But then it was some bitter Bettys that was like, no, he did this, this, and this, and this. And I'm like, life is too short.
And just like, Davis had to grow, Charlie's had to grow too, because I think what she's had to learn is how to be vulnerable, because she doesn't know how to do it. Because we were joking before this started that Davis was waiting on a moment when he could, because she's so strong, there was no way he was going to have an entry to get in. Not that it was premeditated, but he probably wants her back, but he couldn't find an entry point. And this was the perfect opportunity to do it. And so even with her not telling people she had COVID, I think part of her strength is appearing strong, is giving the perception that she doesn't have any weaknesses and that she's impenetrable. And so for her to go, to open that up, she had to be vulnerable, because I think that's the other reason why she wasn't telling people. She has a certain image that works for her. It's like her survival skill.
But you know what? I think when you get married, whether you're a man or a woman, you want to see the vulnerability in your mate, because that's what brings you closer. That's a glue. When there's certain situations that arise and I need someone to be there for me and you're there, that's a bonding situation. So sometimes you can be too strong for your own good. When we talk about a strong Black woman, and I'm not going to go there because, Lord, I don't want any bad press over here. But, as far as Charlie is concerned, break it down some, Charlie. Let that wall down.
I was touched when she talked about, how Davis was on the road and how she longed to be with him. And it reminded her how she longed for her father and his attention, because he had a side family, and how she didn't get that same relationship with her father that Nova and Ralph Angel got with him. And so I could see how that could spill over into her marriage, that same feeling of wanting to that kind of attention and not getting it. And so that was a vulnerable moment for her that I don't think she ever expressed to Davis. And so it's good that they had this conversation, because it's obvious that she didn't get the answers that she wanted out of why he did what he did, why he would destroy their marriage. And his answers really kind of gave them some closure where they could put a button on that situation and move forward.
When he said that he was the monster in the circle.
Yeah, that was a bar right there.
He owned up. He owned it.
He owned it.
He owned it.
Yes.
And I was like, you gotta give it up. to somebody who owns it.
But then I thought she was going to destroy it by bringing up that old bread, and getting on him, and hurting him. Because anytime you revisit something like that, if you're changed, and anytime you revisit a situation like that, it hurts. And that's why we saw David break down and cry, because, that's a painful thing when your own consciousness won't allow you to forget the past. And it doesn't, it just wears on you. And if you ever had anything that you regret doing or not doing, that thing will haunt you for the rest of your life. I tell my kids the same thing. Whatever you're going for, go for it. Don't just quit on it, because as you get older, that thing that you quit on is going to haunt you for the rest of your natural born life. And it ain't easy to try to forget it.
Yeah, and I want to come back to that topic in a second about something haunting somebody. But also, they had that little reconvening where they brought Micah in, and he was kind of talking about, being away and why Charlie didn't tell him she had COVID. And so he seemed very surprised to learn that his dad had been there helping out. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how Davis and Micah can make amends on their relationship. Because even Davis mentioned that, Micah doesn't even talk to him about girls and what's going on with him anymore. So I want to see them have a stronger father-son bond and get over the hill of, how he did the family when he cheated.
I thought he was going to be mad when she found out that his dad was like back in the picture, because sometimes boys are like that with their moms. And when they, breach the trust and violate mom, I thought he was going to take up the charge and be like, oh, nah. I thought he was going to do a Franklin.
But
that ain't your job anymore. That ain't your job anymore.
But that showed growth.
And
with Micah.
You know what let me know that he wasn't going to react that way is because when he was talking to Charlie, he kind of gave her flowers where she was saying, he said to her, I know what it feels like now as an adult when you have to give people the freedom to make their own choices. And he was like, you really gave me the freedom to make my own choices. And I thank you for that. And he really appreciated what she did for him now that he as an adult has to do that for somebody else. And so I could see why he would be understanding of Charlie making amends with Davis, because the perspective is different now that he's an adult and he understands having heartache and heartbreak and people making wrong decisions and maybe having the opportunity to redeem themselves later on.
If you live long enough, but go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
No, the only thing I was going to add to that was, after he said all that, and then he kind of tilted the computer over so that his dad could see and his mom. And that told me, okay, Micah, you've grown, I think you're going to be all right with your dad, because that was the first indication of this family gluing itself back together, and that which was much needed. So I think it was a good thing that he came home. It was a good thing that Davis was there and they had that moment, because I think they're going to build on that moment.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Charlie and Davis making amends. I kind of figured this was coming from the time they met up to go to Micah's college. I kind of felt like maybe something is in the works. And it was looking bleak for him back then. But now that they've had this opportunity to come back together, I love a good redemption story.
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I applaud the writers for this because they show what real healing looks like. And so, the family structure, love is battle tested, is tested by challenge and through fire. And so even, throughout the seasons, we've seen this, we've seen the disputes, the first it was the siblings fighting, and you just go through this conflict, but that's how you grow, right? That's how each of them grows. And so I think it was just a beautiful episode, a beautiful season.
It really, I call it Queen Soul, because it really touched my soul. And, I actually sat there and I was able to really, and not for any so much past experience, but I was able to kind of relate to various characters, as if I were that character. it's it's not that often that I can look at a movie or sitcom or what have you, where I actually get that feeling. And I think Queen Sugar this season allowed me to do that, to live by it, or be a part of it.
Vicariously.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I brought up earlier, somebody having their past mistakes haunt them. Calvin, man, Nova lit him up this episode.
I was like, oh, are they gonna be able to make it?
I said earlier, Calvin made 2 mistakes. First, with that past, he made 2 mistakes. First mistake was dating a Black woman. But the second, and probably the most poignant mistake, was dating a Black woman that is a force, like Nova is, a force with her own, self-understanding, a force with, Blackness. You chose the wrong woman to bring this line of stuff up, man. I mean, I'm surprised she was there as long as she was. Because I actually thought that once she sat down with Calvin, and Calvin admitted the story, I thought she was up and out. Yeah.
Well, she wanted to be. She wanted to be up and out, but I think, like her words, she said that she was torn between wanting to love on him and not defending the nonsense. So it was like, it's tough when you love somebody and they've made crucial mistakes that go against everything you stand for. And so that's like a really hard thing for her to reckon with. And the way things turned out in the end, with him turning himself into internal affairs, like, that was some real accountability on his part, that showed that not only was he trying to take responsibility for his actions, but that he wanted to make amends with Nova if possible. And if that was the way to do it, then he better hope that action was strong enough to cover for that mistake.
I don't know.
Well, it's
Lawanda had something. What was it that you said, Lawanda?
I did.
Oh, was it you, Tiffany? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No. I want to hear what you said off camera.
Off camera, I said it was interesting that this happened on the day of the verdict of George Floyd and Derek Chauvin. So speaking of accountability,
right,
it just came full circle tonight with Calvin turning himself in. So I was like, wow, perfect timing.
Yeah.
I was almost wondering if they have scheduled this episode to air on the verdict date, because it was like spot on.
The timing was so perfect.
No, it's just excellent timing. And, because I did want to mention the verdict with Chauvin. He's got all 3 counts. If you add up the total time, that's 75 years. He may not get 75 years, but he's going to be in jail for quite a while. But, accountability is everything. And I just really wonder, you don't want to take the stand in that situation, but maybe if he had and was, empathetic to the situation, apologetic to the situation, understood what he had done, because my point is, if I was his defense lawyer, I would have
looking at Lawanda's face.
I was about to say, that video is burned.
He did not. I watched the trial.
No,
he did not look empathetic.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. He wasn't at all. And I'm saying, if I was his defense attorney, I would say, look here, maybe it's a good time for us to cut and run. Take a plea.
Well, that's why they didn't put him on the stand. That's why he pled the fifth. They understood that it was not going to go.
He should have pleaded out. He should have pleaded out.
And he looked incredulous when he was found not guilty. The look on his face.
Yeah, like
he couldn't believe it.
He couldn't believe it.
And I was like, believe it. Escort him to the bench.
You know what that look was? That look was a white man who lost his white privilege and didn't understand what it felt like to lose your white privilege.
That was a person who had seen a person in his position get away with murder numerous times. So why should he be any different? Why would he be convicted when he's seen worse? Which is why I've always said that if you looked at that video, he knew what he was doing and he thought he'd get away with it. It was a power trip. right?
Yeah.
And so it goes back to what I was saying, the thing about Calvin, the other mistake that he made is he not only was he dating a strong Black woman who was very in touch with her Blackness, he was a woman with a public platform who does this work.
Yes.
So it was bound to come up. It was bound to come up just because, right? Somebody who knew of that situation, knew of her platform and her work, and then her relationship with him. So it was going to come up. She has a lot to lose by this. So it was going to be interesting to see if she wasn't going to say anything, because it would harm her credibility.
Exactly.
And so she's built a certain kind of trust with the community that that's in jeopardy now, you know?
That's why I don't know if she's going to stay with Calvin. I just think it's going to be, I know she loves him, but I think it's going to be difficult for her to move on from this.
Imagine when that news of what he's done hits the media.
It's going to be a mess.
It's going to be so, just like you said, your friends and family will sometimes, how could you get back with this person after this, that? That's going to be how it is for Nova and Calvin. How could you get back with him after he did such a horrible thing to a member of our community, and you claim that you stand for this community?
Can you imagine how Ra is going to feel? Somebody who has been incarcerated?
Another thing I thought about when she wrote that book, she exposed everybody's secrets without their permission. But she was considering or going to keep his secret and not write about it. And I thought that was so interesting. I was like, I don't know what to feel about that. I mean, I know that's your love.
That's selfish.
It's very selfish that you write this book exposing your whole family and want them to forgive you. But when it came to him, because it jeopardized your situation and your love and, your whole little lifestyle, then it was like, I can't write about this.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, she better start.
I thought it was all about truth. No,
she better get a typewriter and start writing, because I'm gonna tell you, and not only that, it's a hell of a story. If I were her, I wanted her to ask him, so this is what you thought of a young Black man. You thought so little of him. You didn't see him as a human being, because I can tell you right now, if that was a young white boy, you would have stepped in and said, no, y'all not gonna do this. I understand about this, blue wall of silence bull, because I'm gonna tell you, for me, okay, you can have my badge, but I'm not beating up a kid, and I'm gonna step in. So that's it, because no job means that much to me, where I'm gonna harm a human being for no reason at all. You have to look at that person as something less than yourself.
And not only that, I really hated his reasoning for why he did it, and it was basically amounted to peer pressure. Like I was the son of a cop and I had to prove myself, so it was kind of like a hazing situation where he felt pressured to do something. I only hit him once, no more than twice. Like, that makes it any better. So I'm you're gonna take accountability, except that you did, like, even laying one finger on him was too much.
Exactly.
So it's like, don't sit up here and try to justify by saying I hit him no more than 2 times. Like, if you're gonna take accountability, be fully accountable.
And who are you trying to be one of? Because obviously those were racist cops. They were the Ku Klux Klan without the robe, and that's all they were. And so that's the group you want to be a part of? These are the boys that you want to hang out with and call your own? Okay, there's my problem with you. Aside from the fact that this boy will never walk again, aside from the fact that I can't write about it, if I were Nova, I can't get over the fact that you treated this young man the way you did, and there's nothing you can say or do to change the matter.
Yeah,
that's why I think it's going to be very difficult. Knowing Nova as we know her, I think it's going to be very difficult for her to move forward. I think she may try, but I think she's going to probably say to him next season, like, I tried and I can't do this.
I don't know what to think of her if she does accept him back. I think I'm with you, LaWanda. You can't be so eager to spread everybody else's bad news and then keep yours, all lock and key. No.
There's no defense for what he did.
Absolutely.
It really does speak to something, I think, that has to be addressed, is that, okay, these people are they're paid by the taxpayer. They are employees supposed to protect the citizens. But you have this culture that even somebody who is supposed to be one of them is in fear of what they may do, because you've seen that, right? You've seen that when people go against the code, that they're punished because they spoke about a woman, and I can't call her name, but she was.
I think about Carriel. I think her name is Carriel Horn. Yeah, her story was very interesting.
Yeah, so you kind of see his side, even though what he did was unforgivable, especially after you participate and you don't say anything. But you know that he too could have received the same kind of violent punishment that young man received, because that's how the code works. It's bullying, it's power unchecked.
That's why I got a gun on my
terrorism. That's what it is. People who have a license to terrorize other people and get away with it and don't expect to be punished for it. And I think that's why Derek, whatever his name was, I'm not even
Derek Chauvin.
I'm good with not speaking his name. I think that's why he was incredulous, because he bought into this lie that somehow you can kill people. Because I had a friend that had this real interesting thing. She was like, racism is really just a cover for people to commit crimes and get away with it. When you really think about what it is, it's a way to brutalize other people, commit crimes against humanity, and then we just say it's a social issue. No, that means this is bad behavior. This is criminal behavior. This is stuff that's really out far of the scope of how human beings behave and how they relate to each other and how they treat each other. This is abnormal. The unchecked violence, the aggression is abnormal.
When you can, as a man, put your arms or hands or your knee on another man, knowing that the length of time will kill him, see what racism really is, what roots racism is evil. You got to be evil, not mad, not angry, not just racist. You got to be evil to do that. Yeah. What the look I saw on Chauvin's face as he relaxed himself while his knee was on George Foreman's neck.
George Floyd.
You know what I'm talking about. George Foreman. Sorry, George. But George Floyd's neck. That's evil.
Yeah.
That's just pure evil. You can't. There's no explanation for that. And I think the jury took 10 hours just because they wanted to get something to eat and wash the food down, and then said, okay, we're ready. I'm almost certain that they were all set and ready to go once they were, given the opportunity to go back and get this judgment. There's no way you can get around it.
I'm gonna say shout out to the unsung heroes though, like the young lady that was 17 that filmed the video in the first place. Definitely. Filmed all 9 minutes of it or whatever. Like that was very brave of her to do so, and she, dealt with death threats and all types of stuff, things that she shouldn't have to deal with as a young person. And all those people who stepped up and spoke up on the stand and everything, all of them are unsung heroes too.
But the chief of police who spoke up, that's when I knew it was over.
Yeah. When I saw him say that he had gone too far and that wasn't a technique, and then those trainers also backed that up, the lieutenant saying we don't do that in the field, I was like, okay. I was like, he's thrown under the bus now. The case is, they might find him guilty this time.
Yeah.
And I say this as an attorney, but it's odd to me, even as an attorney, that we have to have this proceeding to kind of define what we already know and what we already see. So if it had been not guilty, then what? Did we not see what we saw? What I mean? So it's like this is the system we live in. This is the formalities we have to go through. But we all knew what it was. We knew what it was when we saw it. And for the people who were the bystanders, I'm also very cognizant of the reason they didn't act is because of the terror that we have lived in, because they knew if they did what was right as a human being, which was to stop it, is to intervene and to save George Floyd's life, what would happen to them?
Well,
You know
getting
what I
back,
mean? Even with the video, they could have been prosecuted, they could have been killed, they could have been saying that they interfered with arrest, that there are all these laws and rules to stop people from doing what was morally right to do, which was to intervene and to save his life.
and
That's
that's
problematic.
why
I mean, think about what happened to the guy that filmed Eric Garner's death.
Yeah,
He was arrested.
yeah, but again, that goes back to when we see George Floyd in that situation, we look at Queen Sugar and Calvin's situation, you got to look at the person greater than yourself or equal to yourself.
Well, I think Calvin, at least in Calvin's case, I think Calvin did seem to be remorseful though.
he was.
Unlike
after 20
you know,
years. Yeah, I mean 20 years rolled by, but and I'm sure he was, upset at himself, his past self. But again, I can't get over what you must have thought about that young man on the ground at that time. I just can't imagine where your head was to see somebody like that, a boy, a black man, young black man, that's being tormented by however many police, and you do nothing because you were too afraid to be ostracized from a group that should have never existed in the first place.
But we're not that far removed from a time when that was an outing for them to lynch people. We're not that far removed from that. That's happened within generations. We touched generations of people who did that. And so if you look at Calvin as a white man from the South, from Louisiana, that's the unspoken, not everybody has that in their background, but sure, you can probably say that you encounter people like that. We have our inner secrets as Black people, our culture, they have their culture, and that's a part of it. You've had this reign of terror where you've been able to just brutalize, murder, rape Black people, Native Americans, Indigenous people all over the globe. That's a part of your culture that has to be reckoned with. And that's the thing that we don't talk about. That you know what I mean? You can't ignore that. So when you say that Calvin, is that just a part of the culture, right? Because
you can argue that voodoo is a part of African American culture, but that doesn't mean I got to go out and practice it.
No, but what I'm saying is that it's a part of the culture. It's something that, okay, you may not call it voodoo, but we all have those home remedies of those old saying that we used to hear our grandparents say. That's what I mean. It's a part of the culture. It touches you. You may even have some of that in you, whether you acknowledge it or not. You know what I mean? Because it's just a part of the culture.
I get you.
And I'm not excusing it. What I'm saying is that we need to acknowledge that that's there. That
I get you. I get
look at the history of the US and say, oh, somehow he would have missed this growing up in this culture.
I get you, but I think it's more of it's America's culture, all hand and fist. I mean, we can go back to indigenous slaves. We can go back to how they treated the true American. I mean, how far back you want to go?
That's what I'm saying. You can't ignore it. So I'm not giving him a pass at all. What I'm saying is that I think in some circles we don't acknowledge that as African Americans, as descendants of people who were enslaved and people who still face oppression, on the other side of that, there are the descendants of the people who were the oppressors. And so just like we still suffer from the vestiges of slavery and oppression, they still suffer from the vestige of that terrorism that they've been allowed to enact on people. That's what white privilege really is.
But they're not suffering. They're not suffering.
They are suffering. I'm gonna tell you, you are suffering because whether you acknowledge it or not, the fact that you do these things, karma does not escape anyone. It's gonna be you or your children or your grandchildren. You look at the violence in this country, we got shootings every week. It's insane. So no one escapes it. No one escapes it. And I think because people think individually they may be allowed to, I don't know, maybe they feel like individually, I'm okay, I can go out and do these things. You always have repercussions. No one escapes karma. You just don't.
Let me interject by saying this is the spot Real Talk. So we've just gone into Real Talk, y'all. So pardon Queen Sugar, but this is who we are.
But that was the good thing about, I think, this season, is that it was a real season. It really grappled with real issues. And I think really about how Black people feel. I think it was an expression of everything we thought, all the conversations that we've had since this time last year. It was almost like, we're going to open it up and let you see how we really are, what we think, and how we are responding to what's going on. Because
Yes.
it's a lot.
Okay.
I agree. And I think that's what I love most about the show. Like you said, is the conversation that it sparks. It's just so much to be said about a variety of topics within our community, within our cultures, even within our families, and going into the intricacies of just family relationships. It's so much. And I love the conversation that it highlights.
Me too.
Yeah, I think it was, I think that was the beauty of this. It gives people that entry point for us to have these discussions. And at the end of the day, throughout all of that, you still have family, you still have love, you still have babies coming, you're still able to live, you're still able to look towards the future and what's next, right? And I just think that's the beauty of the show, Queen Sugar, that it's not even about resilience at this point. It's about really us, and they've said it, being able to manifest abundance, being able to manifest the kind of lives that we want. So I just thought, I don't know, hats off to the show. I think it really, like you said, Ron, speaks to the heart and soul of Black folks.
I agree. I agree.
Absolutely looking forward to next season. I'm wondering if Parker well, I'm pretty sure she will reappear. We didn't see much of her this season, so I'm sure she'll be back next season to wreak some havoc on Charlie.
Was that because she's pregnant?
Yeah, I think she's pregnant in real life. So
yeah,
COVID and pregnancy sidelined her.
That's a double dip. Yeah.
All right. Well, do you guys have anything else you want to add?
No, this was a great season and this was a great discussion. I'm glad we had it.
Yeah, me too. The only thing I would add is I don't know how next season can top what we've seen so far. You know, we've seen.
We're talking about Ava, so
Yeah, well,
and her team. So
it's I can't
next
wait.
season will be dope too.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait.
We'll get back to the politics.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's a needed conversation, and I'm glad we had it because you know, it's nothing to skirt around. And if we all start having this conversation, you know, maybe we can get there. You know, but it's certainly something that can't be left on the table anymore.
And if this show is going to mimic real life, then I'm sure the issue of the voter suppression that's been going on will be a topic that will spark some more conversation for us next season.
Definitely.
So I don't know. I would be looking forward to that conversation to see how Ava and her team will play that one.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, this was great. Thank you to all the viewers for watching. We absolutely love when you come and tune in with us. Please stick with us for all our other shows that we recap. Be sure to click the subscribe button and also the notification bell so that you get alerted every time we post a video. And you can follow us on social media at The Spot Real Talk on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, where we post content from our YouTube clips, and we will absolutely give you a follow back as well if you follow us. So catch us this weekend. We are now reviewing The Godfather of Harlem. And we are going to be back also this week to finish off the season finale of Snowfall. So don't miss that. But until then, I think we'll call it a night, guys. Right. Thanks again.
You never feel the way I feel. You don't know if my love